Roll call, please, Melanie.
Alderperson Hoggett.
Here.
Alderperson Vansel.
Here.
Alderperson Yakub.
Here. We've all seen the minutes. Do we have any additions or changes? Otherwise, do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on. Parking. Consider 2 15-minute parking spaces on Locust Street near Kanoki's Chocolates and Hudson Flower Shop. Dave came to me asking about this, and I talked to Marty about this, and I've kind of formulated some ideas that I want to run by everybody. I have a concern. I respect his concern. I get it, because they're worried about when the restaurant comes in across the street that there will be no parking for quick parking, that people will come, park there, stay 1 or 2 hours, and I can respect that concern. I have that same concern with payment in lieu of parking. That was one of my concerns, and but then the other side of that for me is that we can't. Every restaurant would want 15-minute parking, and everywhere downtown, someone wants, that's not it's requested all the time, and we can't grant it in every corner. So because of that back and forth, Marty and I were talking on the phone about Locust Street, and there's already 2 15-minute spots there on the very end by Mickelson's, and Mickelson's also has a handicap spot on 2nd Street. So there's 3 spots catering Mickelson's, which technically those 15-minute spots were supposed to cater all of Locust Street when they were put in. So we had multiple ideas. We thought about multiple ideas. So I'll present them, and you guys can hash out what you think. That we either move both 15-minute spots more towards the center to cater all the Locust Street businesses, because people pop in and out of some of the other businesses too. It's not, just those 2. We create 2 more 15-minute parking spots like they're requesting, which puts 4 15-minute parking spots, which, to be quite honest, unless we have a meter person on, they're not going to be metered. They're not going to be really ticketed. People aren't going to be ticketed. I mean, we don't have enough police on to do it. Or the other idea I had was to remove the 2 15-minute parking spots on the corner of Mickelson's and replace one with a meter, one with a handicap stall, and move that other 15-minute spot up towards Kanoki's and the flower shop on that section of meters. So Mickelson's would gain a second handicap stall to actually cater, because their whole purpose is they're worried about the elderly and stuff like that. So, and then that 1 15-minute stall then would go up towards the candy shop and the flower shop. So it wouldn't add additional 15-minute meters, but maybe would help so that traffic that's going up there will have a spot. So those were the 3 options. So the option is to grant the 2 15, to maybe split it up, to maybe, switch it around, have a handicap and move one. I mean, these are just ideas that I've been thinking about. So what are you guys thinking?
I'd suggest taking the 2 out from Mickelson's and putting 1 on each side of the alley so that all the businesses have 1 spot they can use.
And that was one of the things we talked about, put them in the middle like that.
1 on each side of the alley would take care of each side of the businesses.
Yeah.
Those spots at Mickelson's obviously get used constantly because of Mickelson's filling prescriptions for people. Mm-hmm.
But they're not always used by Mickelson's people.
Well, I use that frequently myself, and for that purpose, and typically that it's fairly consistent. Mm-hmm. So I am not in favor of getting rid of both of those for that purpose. I think 1 would at least continue to service that. I mean, quite frankly, given the nature of that block, Carboni's isn't there anymore, so I wouldn't have a problem with having 1 at Mickelson's, 1 on each side of the alley, and 1 at the other end, and then you would just have enough 15-minute rotation for all the businesses would have that, and then we would just be done and leave the handicap the way it is on First Street.
You want 4 total 15-minute spots on Locust Street?
Yeah, I don't think that would be a problem, frankly.
The benefit about what he's talking about, having 15-minute parking spaces on either side of that alley, is now you won't have cars there all the time. They'd be in and out on a regular basis for cars that are going in and out of that alleyway and make visibility a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm. Though I like Rich's idea of having it, that was similar to what I was saying, just center them more And that way, you know, if the person doesn't need a handicap spot, then the 15-minute spot 4 stalls up is not going to be that much of an inconvenience. That's the way I see that. If they need a handicap spot, there's one right there as well. I don't agree with adding 2 more because Locust Street is also, should be a high turnover street just from the meters. I mean, you know, and those meters are used consistently, which, you know, quite frankly and honestly, it's a revenue generator that we need to maintain the parking downtown. So I don't want to completely lose. Those are probably that's probably our busiest street for meter use as well.
John, doesn't Mickelson's have a doorway right there on the, right just off the alley
Yeah.
that you can enter through?
No, not off the alley, it doesn't.
No, but like 2 stalls up.
Like 2 stalls down? Isn't there a side entrance?
Right, I'm looking at it on here, that's why I keep looking at my phone.
There's a side entrance to go
Yeah,
in?
there's a side entrance right by those 2 spots.
So the handicap spot would serve that lower entrance, and moving the 15-minute spot up would serve that second entrance.
But by the nature of being handicapped, you're probably not going to go down that stairway on the side entrance.
No, but the lower entrance has a handicap spot already, right in front on 2nd Street.
Right. I don't think we need to move that, I think you should.
No, I'm saying that that's there already to
Right.
help the handicap. So, and a handicapped person can park at any meter and not pay a meter. So if that first meter is open, they can park there and
Right.
not pay the meter. So that's not a hindrance either to them then. I like your idea. If you wanted to make a motion to that, I would definitely second that. So,
Well, I'll make a motion that we move the parking spaces to 1 on each side of the alleyway. The 15-minute parking spots to each side of the alleyway.
you have my second on that. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
All right, motion passes 2-1. Good. 4, consider painting a crosswalk on First Street at Walnut Street, south side. Was this you, John, that requested this?
Yes, it is. Currently, there is no painting. Once the parking was put in on the south side of that, sidewalk extends. There, people wait there to cross there all the time, yet there's no crosswalk. So I was just being, kind of consistent on that intersection.
It's too late in the season now, so it'd have to go in the spring, if this is something we approve.
Yeah.
So,
I'm okay with that.
All right, I'll make a motion to paint the crosswalk on the south side of First and Walnut Street.
I'll second it.
all's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on. Consider a Hudson Fire Department request to purchase structure for cold storage. Another one we were tackling since 5 o'clock. So do you want to, you go ahead and talk, Jim.
Yeah, we're still kind of looking for ideas or ways we can create space, or we have stuff within the building that I would like stored fairly close, easy access to get it. Mary and I had looked before the meeting tonight, and we're going to try and create space within the building first and see how that works.
So part of the obstacle is the time to get it done, and just the mindset of what to do and how you can do it. So when he wanted to bring in the cold storage, that would take up a couple more parking spots. I was a little concerned and said, well, we just gave you 4. If that's 2 more, you probably will have to lose some of your parking spots. We have to decide what was more important there. And then the cost of the cold storage was not insignificant. It was a good chunk of change. I think you budgeted, what, $6,500 for that. So one of the ideas was to have, I called April Simmons. She does, she has an organizing business, Overwhelmed. It's called Overwhelmed to Organize. And I thought, let's bring her in. She came in and looked, she donated her time to come in and look. And she gave us a bid to basically go into both these closets. And if you haven't seen these closets yet, you need to go see them. It is very overwhelming, and there's a lot to be done. It's going to be a lot of work.
Overstuffed.
And Marty's taking some of the stuff too for us, some chairs, and we're going to move some tables out. So we already have we're already going to be moving some stuff up, but that doesn't even dent the issue. That just handles the safety part of the electrical boxes. this issue has to get taken care of. So April gave us a bid of $600 to do the work. That doesn't include recycling and stuff, so I think we were thinking like to budget.
Recycling, additional shelf space or containers or whatever they need to organize. It looks like a war zone in there.
It's bad. I mean, all of the fire equipment and stuff, and anything that the guys need, if they need to put on, are in a pile. I mean, you can't function. This is not functional.
It was organized, but of course, like anything else over time, it just kind of deteriorates.
And I think if we organize this, we'll also create more space. And obviously, the long-term solution is to have a new public safety building, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. So we got to work with what we have. $600, or if we budget even $800 or $1,000, we are talking, depending on what we need to purchase, is much less expensive than $6,500 and the loss of a couple more parking spots. So Jim is open to it. You just have to decide. Let us know what you want for a budget.
Yeah.
If you're.
I would say $1,000.
So, if.
For long term, we were looking at some warehouse space up in the business park, and a couple of the units had metal mezzanines.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, given the ceiling height in there, and I'm not exactly sure how wide they could be, but that could be considered a long-term.
Yep, in the main
solution,
area.
yeah.
We've thought about that, and we're getting the sprinkler system coming in.
Yeah.
So we'd have to
It would have to be modified to
modify all that to
accommodate that.
And then that was also pretty costly. Did you go out and get actual bids for
No,
that?
I didn't.
No.
Because you're going to have to get a structural engineer kind of to know how to design it or whatever to even try to get any kind of cost estimate.
And there's space in those closets if it's just redone. I think we'll be surprised what you have.
14 or 16-foot ceilings in that building, but it's to be able to utilize all the height space that's there.
And mind you,
these
are two closets that she would be working on, and she is a glutton for punishment, like Jim said, because that's a lot of work. So I asked her to come because I knew she would be fair with the city because she knows the budget restraints we're under, and she's a local business, so it's kind of nice to utilize that and see if we can open up some space too, and then maybe some of the other stuff that he has that's kind of flowing into the bays can get moved back there too, and create even more space.
I didn't bother to take her down that avenue.
Well, I already mentioned it, but we figured we'll see how this first step goes.
It was better today. Monday night we had that training burn, so earlier today there was hose all over the floor. You couldn't even walk.
So we can't have that, basically. So I'll make the motion, and if you said $1,000, to budget $1,000 to have April Simmons come in from Overwhelmed to organize to work her magic and get this situation rectified. She'll work with Jim. They'll label stuff. She'll work with Miranda. I told her I'd go in and help to get stuff what we need. So that's my motion.
I'm willing to try something.
We're going to take
gotta
VHS tapes and convert them to DVDs. And,
Yeah.
we're going to do some stuff. So I have the power to do that, so we're going to do that.
I have somebody that does that.
I do it.
Oh, you do it?
We do it at home, yeah,
Okay.
so we'll get it done. So if someone is okay with that and would like to second that motion, that would be appreciated.
Sure, I'll second that.
Okay, so $1,000 for to have her come in and organize.
My only comment, and maybe this can be on a future agenda, is that the only other realistic thing to do to that building would be add a second story on the office part of it, you know what I mean? It's probably structurally not that big of a deal.
Right, which we can talk about that, but I think we're looking at what we'd want to look to
It's
is
obviously short term, and
second-
it needs to
yeah.
be done today. I understand that. I'm just
but
saying
I
that.
mean, even long term, if we could do that, then we'd want to look at a second public safety building somewhere too.
But that's, my understanding is we were never going to get rid of this as a building regardless, so I don't know if that's true or not. but-
Well, that's my idea, that this would stay, to serve the downtown area in North Hudson, and that a site to be chosen to the east farther or southeast or whatever
Yeah.
to serve those folks on that end. So
Yeah, well, it could be on a future agenda item if you'd like, cross it, or we can cross that road when we come to it
Yeah,
too.
kind of when it makes sense.
Yep. So, we have a motion. Did we have a second?
I second
Okay.
it,
All
yeah.
those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Moving on. Thank you for that.
Let you know if it works.
Alrighty. I think it'll be good. I think it'll be a good thing. EMS, Fire Department, Police Department updates. Anybody?
Well, Monday night we had the opportunity to do training on a retired barn. The event went really well. We didn't get any calls. I don't know if your staff did, but anytime we can get an acquired structure like that, it's great training for our folks. The other thing I have is I just update with MABUS that the council approved a few months ago. They've worked through, we have obtained division status for St. Croix County. I believe it's Division 143. So we're at the stage now we're going to start developing box cards, the cards to say who comes to what.
Oh, good.
So
Is that moving faster than expected?
no, it's moving slower.
Slower?
We had a little change in the leadership within the Mavis division
Okay.
here, so they kind of took the summer off, basically, is how it worked. So it is moving.
Okay. Dave, do you have anything for you?
Just a couple things. I was looking over the runs here over the last few months. I just want to remind the public now, as we're getting into wintertime here, is that we've had a lot of CO detection alarms to houses where either the CO unit is bad or they forgot to replace the battery and it's beeping. So I would strongly urge citizens out there to start either replacing new units if they're over 5 years old, and or if they're obviously the batteries, make sure now that start changing batteries, put new batteries in those, and along with smoke detectors. We do get a lot of false alarms and smoke detectors, so it's time now to change batteries. It's a good time of year to do that. As we said earlier, the sprinkler plans are working on for the sprinkling of the fire hall. It's moving on, so whatever you decide for storage will accommodate accordingly. It's not a problem. So, I think that's about all I got.
Kim?
Just a couple of things that we've done over the last month is we held interviews within our department for lieutenant positions. One of our commission members was actually on that, and we've budgeted to have them. We'll have 4 of them starting January. So they'll be starting, which will be nice because we'll have additional resources then for us and for myself, actually, for staff and everybody to go to. We'll be working towards a critical care level also for 2013, which will involve either taking more medications, more critical patients. It'll mainly involve the hospital as far as transfers that we take from the cities, but it'll allow us to do a few more things, which will be really nice. So we've got some people that are already trained as that, and then we've got some others that'll be going through the training next year. But otherwise, that's about it on our side.
How's that new ambulance working for you?
Fantastic.
Good.
Do you have
Alrighty.
3 out there?
Yeah.
Oh,
We've been busy too. We've
Are they all working? Or
They're all working.
Not working, but all being used up. Used.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's probably good that we didn't take the other option.
No.
We'd be in trouble.
Yep.
Our new squad car that we ordered just a little over a month ago came in last week, so it's here. We're working on trying to get it in to get it outfitted. Problem we're running into is the outfit we use is extremely busy right now, so it might be a little bit before we can get it in and get it outfitted, but we are working on that. The fire hall siren is completed. In fact, it was tested on the first Wednesday of the month. It went off,
And
I
we
understand, so,
thought for a minute it was going to be stuck too because it was a very long siren.
yeah. So,
We'll hear it on the river, I guess.
well, you'll be able
It's
to hear it.
loud.
That's no problem with that.
There you go, John.
Yep.
We're happy now.
The 3 of us and members of our departments were invited to the Rotary yesterday morning for Public Safety Appreciation Day. We all gave presentations there that went really well. We want to thank the Rotary for allowing us to come there. It was a very well-received group there. We really appreciate it. And the last thing I want to remind everybody, it's obviously we've already had a little bit of snow. I don't want to jinx anybody, but just want to remind everybody about the snowplow ordinance in town. If we get 2 inches or more of snow, you got to stay off the city streets until we plow it curb to curb.
It starts today, right?
Well, it starts today on the 15th, so we get 2 inches of snow. You got to stay off the streets until it's plowed curb to curb. So I just want to remind everybody, we'll be putting that probably in either next week's paper or the week after that.
So April 15th.
Yep.
And then I forgot what I was going to ask you. That's fine. So we'll go on to dispatch policies. And I asked for this to come on for informational purposes because we have some I don't know how to put it, but we're trying to figure out how we can maybe not have every single, or if we don't have to have fire and police and ambulance come on a scene, that only maybe needs police and ambulance, for example, and not fire.
Just a little history on this it came from the council meeting when they discussed fire being, starting charging people for fire runs and so forth. And we began talking about the policies about fire, EMS, and police all getting dispatched to the same incident, and we talked about the dispatch policies on that. So Mary asked me if we'd have Casey Swetlick. He's the emergency management director, and director of the dispatch center for St. Croix County, to come down and talk about the policy. So that's why Casey's here.
So you can have the floor, sir.
All right. We've got 149 policies. I don't know. Specific to this, we do what we're told. My dispatchers do a great job at that. And when we're dealing with an accident with injuries, we're told that emergency services wishes to have a representation from fire and EMS. Now, I don't know specific as to what types of calls you're concerned about, but I'm certainly willing to provide input from our perspective. We don't tell anyone what to send or how many or anything. We just inform them of the incident, and then they're the experts to determine how many go. Same with law enforcement, a severe incident versus, shoplifter in custody. It's up to them to decide how many are going to go. We certainly don't control that.
Okay, because I think I feel there was confusion between who can decide who goes and what. I don't know if it's just determined that if the confusion was that all 3 entities have to go, or if, it gets sent out, or when the call gets made, you guys can determine here before you go. I feel like there was some confusion with Jim and...
Depends on what the call is.
Right, for EMS, it's pretty more clear cut, but just seems to have been a...
Well, the situation, and I did talk to Casey about this a little bit, and I think it comes down to you two sitting down and deciding what you wanted. But we've been sent to accidents with no injuries, and our officers arrive on the scene, and somebody will start complaining. You know what? I got a little bit of a stuffy neck. I said, "Would you like an ambulance?" No, we just like to, we'll just have a paramedic check us out. Well, we'll ask for a paramedic to be sent, and dispatch tones both fire and EMS to come at the same time, and. But that's a policy that they've worked out with fire and EMS on regards to that.
So who's in? So how is that? So that's where I have a problem that I'm trying to understand. If it's not necessary for fire to go out, then why do we send fire out?
It's an auto response. Anytime there's an accident, all rescue, fire, EMS.
Accident with injuries.
Okay. So when someone requests a paramedic, both of you have to go.
Yeah, they're not, the dispatch center is not going to, or dispatcher is not going to determine. It gets recoded then as accident with injuries.
Right.
Within their system then, it says, it suggests fire and EMS response.
Okay.
Usually when the paramedic gets on scene, if fire isn't needed, they'll cancel them, or if anything, they'll just have one unit respond just to help either with traffic. The other thing we have to worry about is if there's fluids leaking from the vehicle. Right. So if there is, then we have to keep them coming. But if we can cancel to keep as little vehicles off the road, we will. We'll cancel our own ambulance sometimes too. The only issue is that before fire gets canceled, they're already called. They're down here, and then that's when, and automatically there's
we're paying to clean fire trucks and sweep. So that's why I guess my question, the reason why we brought Casey was my question was who decides who comes where, and I think there was confusion as to who does, and and if that's been cleared up since then I apologize, Casey, but for having you come in. But it's more of if this is something that can be done internally through the dispatch, after dispatch calls, because I don't expect dispatch to know what's going on the scene either. That's not what I was requesting. It's that if the police are on scene and a paramedic is requested, I get that the call goes out to both, but if there's I would think that visually we would know if we would need fire, but I guess
I've been at incidents. There was a semi rolled over. The trooper rolls up and cancels the fire, and
there was
ambulance
gas.
response, and the victim is still in the cab of the truck, pinned in there.
Yeah.
So, that's just one example.
Yeah.
So accident, as far as dispatch protocol, it gets recorded accident with injuries, and without listening to the radio traffic prior to that.
So what about a
I
non-accident?
have no idea. I have no idea what the situation is.
What about a non-accident? What about a heart attack or something like at Wintergreen?
Then it's just us and
It's just EMS.
PD.
Okay.
The only thing you might be thinking, if it's a bigger person, they're getting trained in it, you're going to have a lift assist coming in there. Then you might tone fire out just for more people power.
So when you call fire out for that, though, does the whole station come down?
Yeah.
Yep.
Whoever's available.
Usually it ends up with just one engine doing it with 4 or 5 people on there, and then
I
they
don't
help to
think
reload them. Yeah, but it doesn't happen all the time.
I don't think it's happened here, unless our guys were tied up in a major incident where we had to call fire out for a lift assist.
We've had to call them quite a bit this year.
Have you really? Our guys have been that busy?
We've got a lot of patients where either the situation or the location that they are in the house,
Right.
or weight. Weight alone is something that anything that's over usually 400 or 500 pounds, we've got fire rolling because there's just no way for us to safely do it. But they come they come routine at that point. There's no lights and siren for that. We'll usually request them routine unless there's something severe going on with the patient, or, like I said, the situation warrants it, then they'll come lights and siren. But for the most part, we try and keep them all routine so that way there's not the mass chaos of people all over the place. But
Casey, just for clarification, you also said that the policies are made so that you don't have, I don't know how many departments you have to deal with, but you try to keep them as simple as possible so your dispatcher doesn't have to have look up what's Hudson's protocol versus Woodville's or Wilson's or Star Prairie's or whatever, correct?
We serve 37 different police, fire, and EMS agencies in the county, so consistency is important, but yet we're automated, so we're able to do what we can do because of how our computers work.
Right.
So if our computers wish for a recommendation, there are other fire departments in the county that, according to the certain type of incident, will respond differently. But what we're not able to do is, in Hudson Fire's jurisdiction, if it's in the city, it's handled one way. If it's in the county, it's handled it's still Hudson Fire's jurisdiction.
Okay.
So it codes according to the type of call. And Jim, you're correct. If it comes in as an accident, the dispatcher will code it as an accident. Law enforcement usually is the first one to arrive, and they report somebody's injured. So the dispatcher then recodes that to what's called an API, an accident with personal injury. And then that's when the computer recommends that on all APIs, EMS, rescue, and fire are to respond. But then the dispatcher does, hopefully, a good job of laying out the situation. Officer at the scene reporting one person walking around complaining of neck and back pain. So that typically goes out to the emergency services that are responding as the explanation as to what they're about to see or witness.
So I think one of the things that alarmed me, which is when I asked you or Jim and Marty about everything, was when, Jim, you had said that you have, what did you say, 90%? How many false alarms do you usually get?
Our alarm, what I call smells and bells calls, I smell something or my alarm's going off, is probably around 90%.
Yeah. So you guys bring out the whole squad to have them change a battery. Basically.
Well, not all of them.
Not all of them, obviously, but, you know.
I mean, we don't send out 8 trucks for, and deals like that.
No, but everyone comes down, and then
Right.
the truck goes out, and, and the way the volunteer fire department works, because they're volunteer, the minute they come down, they're getting paid,
Right,
which is,
exactly.
they're volunteers, so, and then they do work down here to
Yeah, exactly.
compensate for the pay, I get that. I guess I didn't know at a dispatch end, I mean, are they able to go through a certain routine of questions if it seems non-emergent, like when a carbon monoxide detector is going off, are they able to check with them and say, have you changed your battery in the last 6 months, or
Right.
where it can avoid a call to the fire, or?
Our protocol is.
I know you're laughing at me, I'm just trying
No,
to,
I'm not laughing. I'm about to. I'm very liability conscious,
Right.
as I'm sure all of you
Right,
are.
right.
We
It's a
do
big-
not go engage in that type of recommendation. You called for the fire department, you
They
get the fire
come.
department. You call for the police department. We will not try to argue against what you're calling for.
right, I guess I wasn't asking to argue, but just maybe,
Gather information.
gathering the information, I,
Carbon monoxide with no symptoms is a non-emergency response for us.
okay.
So our folks just wander in. Now, if they say carbon monoxide with symptoms.
Well, yeah, then you
it's
send that,
an
yeah.
Emergency,
Well, that makes sense, yeah.
emergency type system.
And a lot of times, what Casey gets there, he's getting it from second and third parties, and he has to send what the second, third, it may not
Right.
end up being what it ends up being, if you know what I mean. So
Right.
my dad used to always tell me on same fire, rather have the companies coming, we can cancel them en route, it didn't cost them anything, than have them not there when we do need them.
No, I know. I'm not saying that I'm trying to limit when they come. I'm just asking if there's, if there was a way to be a little more efficient. Just from what I heard from when we were talking, basically, was what rose these questions were. I raised these questions because of the discussions we've had, me and Jim and Marty, and not for my own self-education, because I wouldn't have known any of this without talking to you guys first to have these questions. So.
Well, it seems like the only thing that, like, lift assist, I mean, can't, I'm just thinking out loud here, but if I'm a volunteer fire person, can't I just get rerouted to the scene rather than coming to the fire station for a lift assist, or?
And then we get multiple cars on scene,
Okay.
and that's the only problem. And that's, we've prevented all of our people from going straight to a scene just for that simple fact, because we don't want,
50
10 or
cars,
15 cars
right.
out on one scene when we could have one.
You'd have to be able to limit the amount of cars that would show up, and
Yeah.
that gets a little more complex, yeah.
It's a lot easier if they all gather together and go as a crew.
Right, and I'm not
We
naive to the fact
manage
that when you're on 94, obviously you're going to bring everyone on. You don't know, versus Walnut Street or something where it could be a fender bender. But I'm just,
We manage our people as a crew, not as an individual.
yeah. Which we have to do for safety reasons. I get it. I get it. It was just there was a lot of questions that were raised, and we thought we didn't know we'd have Casey come, but it seems like there were some questions answered before we got here too that I wasn't aware of. But that's okay. So, is there any other questions for Casey? Since we have them, we might as well utilize them. Anything? No. Thank you. Sorry.
No,
for-
no apology needed. Thank you. I
Right.
appreciate the opportunity to clear the record.
Thanks.
Good night.
Thanks for your time.
All right.
Other possible parking options downtown, is this from just last month, or was this
This
requested?
is, you requested this?
I did?
Yes.
Can we skip it? Because I have no idea anymore why I requested it. Or do you have a reason?
Short of putting together a parking ramp, I don't know where we'd be putting possible parking
I'm
options.
calling Parkinson's bringing
Okay.
this one.
All
I
right,
don't remember
sounds
why
good.
I did that. So I had, I would like to put on a future agenda. Dave, we already went through your issue, but I'll talk to you about it after 6 o'clock. I didn't tell you that. Oh, okay. Can we put and I know Eric looked into this once, I just kind of want to readdress it, a siren out by Hudson Meadows, out that way, out in the south end of town. I was over there I think I talked to you about this, I was over there when they did this test, the first Wednesday at 11 o'clock, so I decided to go over there, and I couldn't hear it, really, and it's with this highway and stuff there, it's difficult, so I just want to make sure that we're, as safe as the river. Apparently, it's nice and loud now. So, is there any other items for future agendas?
Yeah, I have a couple.
Okay.
One is the billing for fire calls, will be on next agenda.
Seems coincidental to our
Yeah,
conversation.
exactly.
I had a conversation.
And then we need to redo the auto aid with Roberts, where both departments are paged at the same time. There's some language changes that need to come. So
Okay, is that done here or a joint fire board?
the joint fire board has already reviewed it.
Okay, we're bringing it here then.
so
All
I'm
right, I
bringing
just
it
didn't
back
want to
here.
skip a board or
No,
something.
right.
So.
Somebody left out.
Yeah. All right, so we have those, Melanie, along with the siren. Anything else? Anybody? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All right, all those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.